Hello, and welcome to another edition of Shed Kitchens, the channel where we show you the simple way to make the dishes you love. In today's episode, we'll be making the perfect pizza. And while we're on the topic of pizzas, they originated from Italy in 1889, created by a man named Esposito when he was called upon by the Italian king Umberto I. For today's episode, though, we'll be making a pepperoni pizza because the first pizza made was the margherita pizza. I forgot to mention that fact. Now, safety first. We've cleared our area so we don't trip on anything, and we have oven gloves somewhere so we don't burn our hands on a tray while handling it out of the oven, which will be preheated to 200 degrees centigrade. Also, remember to wash your hands, as you don't want to get any germs on the utensils or the ingredients you're going to be putting into the pizza. Now, how about we check that everything is here? For our first addition to the list, we have table salt, which will be used in the mix to create the dough used for the base of the pizza. Next up, we have Parmesan cheese, freshly grated out of the packet from Tesco's. So, Tesco's quality, everybody. Plain flour, which will be used to, well, cover our surface so the dough doesn't stick to anything, even the rolling pin, which is there. For our toppings, we have pepperoni slices. We'll get decorative with these, but there's not much to say about them, except they are from Tesco, yet again. We have 200 milliliters of warm water, which will be used again for our dough mix, that is to liquefy it. And then after we've rolled out the dough, we have our tomato puree, which will be spread using the palette knife once I get around to that. For our cutlery, we have a pizza cutter. Careful you don't get a paper cut on these, believe me, I've had the experience. Then we have 2 tablespoons and 2 teaspoons, which will be for our sugar and our yeast. A metal fork, this will be used for stabbing the base once it's created. A wooden spoon, which will be used for our genuine mixing in that bowl. Rolling pin, which will be used for rolling out the dough once it's placed down on the table after we floured the surface. And we're going to be making the dough into a circle, of course. Finally, our palette or palette knife, whichever one it is. I always forget, my apologies. But this will be used to spread the tomato puree around the base. Finally, 302 grams of flour, 300 grams. You don't have to get it exactly right, but it's in that margin. And finally, table salt, which I've put in the plate so it's easier to scoop out, putting it into the mixture that we're going to create. Now that we've gone through that, let's get into it. First off, we want to take a teaspoon of the salt and put it in the bowl, along with the teaspoon of yeast. Careful not to get it all over your work surface. Yeast is, well, relatively the same size as salt, so don't lose it. Finally, we want to put in the flour first. Flour before water, it's relatively easier. Mix it around. The flour should absorb the salt and the yeast. Once you hardly see any salt and yeast, which will be already pretty hard with the flour in there, you should be ready to pour in the 200 milliliters of water. Now you could do it the other way around and put the salt and the yeast in the water beforehand, but for today we're doing it my way. So that's the yeast of our concerns. Once you've mixed it well, it should begin to look like a slimy substance. And what you want to do with that slimy substance is grab a tea towel, put the tea towel over the bowl, and leave that to set for 30 minutes. It should double in its size. If it doesn't double in its size, then you could have messed up some quantities, among other things, but it should double in size. If it does double in size, and seeing how I can't wait 30 minutes for it to rise, I have some pre-made dough right here, which I'm going to use for the, well, near enough final part of the video. Now grab some flour, flour your surface, flour it well, because you don't want the dough sticking to the table. If it sticks to the table, you're going to have a hard time. And also flour the rolling pin just to reduce that stickiness, as I keep mentioning. Plop flour on the table, and we're going to roll it out into a relatively perfect circle. It doesn't have to be entirely perfect. However, my OCD prevents me from being a perfectionist. Once we have the circle that we desire, we use the tomato puree along with the palette knife. Plop some down onto the base and spread it with the knife. Spread it evenly to the edges, not too much because you do want to enjoy the crust. Everybody enjoys the crust of a pizza, me especially. Once you have spread it out as evenly as you can, take your Parmesan cheese and sprinkle that evenly as well. You have to have even proportions for a pizza. You don't want a lack of cheese. But then you don't want too much cheese either. After the Parmesan cheese is applied, get your pepperoni slices, open the pack, and put them around the pizza. You can get pretty decorative with this stage. If it's Valentine's Day, for example, you could make a heart. Easter, perhaps make an egg. Who knows, but I like to have extra pepperoni. Now, we will take this, clear our tray off, and we'll take this and put it on this tray. This tray will go into the oven at 200 degrees centigrade for about 20 minutes. And of course, we don't have olive oil, but you can use olive oil. Just drizzle it and it'll help the pizza, well, heat in the oven. And you leave it in there for 20 minutes, preheated to 200 degrees centigrade. Now, I can't wait 20 minutes, so I have a pre-made pizza right here. Doesn't quite look as lovely as mine, but I'm sure it will be enjoyable nonetheless. So, I hope this edition of Shed Kitchens has been enjoyable enough. We will be around quite a bit to give you some decent tutorials. Bon appetit. Magnifico. Tune in next time on Shed Kitchens. I hope you enjoyed again, and I shall see you next time.